I wanted to talk to you today about something that I've been noticing lately about preparation. I've noticed it with some other people on YouTube and elsewhere, and also with myself. And that's a preparation of preparing ourselves to be ready to meet our God. Now, people are falling into two categories. They're either in diligent preparation or they're not. And if they're not, they're just living their life, and they either have the mindset of, God doesn't exist, or it's not a big deal, or they look at Jesus as their homeboy or something of that sort. And though he's our friend and our beloved, he's also our God, which should not be taken lightly. There's a couple of verses here I want to point out. 2 Peter, let's see, 2 Peter 1:10 says, "Wherefore, the rather, brethren, give diligence to make your calling and election sure, for if you do these things, you shall never fall." Now, the point I want to make out there is to make your calling and election sure. So remember that. Another one is Philippians 2:12. The last part of that verse. Well, I'll just read the whole thing. "Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling." If you'll notice, he says to them that they have always obeyed, and yet they still are to work out their salvation with fear and trembling, because it is a fearful thing to come into the presence of God. I don't know if it's a vision or a dream, I'm not sure. It was at night, and it didn't feel like a dream, but I had gone to sleep, and so I don't know which it was. But what I do know is in a moment, I came out of my body, I guess, and the whole room was really, really dark. It was really dark. It was really hard to see anything. I could somewhat make things out that I knew were in the room, but not clearly. There was a spot behind where my body was where there was light, and so I ended up turning towards that, and I saw this man standing there, and there was just white light all around him, and it was almost as though it was coming from behind him, but in a way it was more like in him coming out, because it didn't cast any shadows in the room. The light didn't have any rays that cascaded on anything. It was just him. He was just glowing, and I couldn't see his face. It was such a bright light where his face was that I couldn't see his face, but I knew inside that it was Jesus. And I was in shock. I mean, it sounds weird, but I knew he existed. I know he is who he says he is, but to actually see him face to face is just awe-inspiring, and it was shocking. And he doesn't look anything like the pictures that people paint of him. They make him look very frail, I guess, small. But what I saw was massive and extraordinarily strong and powerful. I mean, his presence alone commands just authority and power. And the only things I could really focus on was his right hand, because I could see that clearly. It was the closest thing to me, and his feet. And his hands were just so strong. But anyways, I was actually shocked, because the closer I got to him, the more freaked out I was. And it got to the point where I could not handle it. It was so much power that I could not handle it. And I prayed that he would just stop. Just stop. I couldn't go forward, because it was too much. And instantly I was back in my body and came to. And I listen to people who talk about the rapture and even dying and coming face to face with God and everything, and they do it so nonchalantly. And I don't think a lot of people are actually paying attention to what this means, that you are going to be face to face with God, the person who created you, the one who has the power to destroy you with one word, and you never existed. That is pure power, and it is a reverent thing to fear the Lord. And I don't think that people are taking this seriously. And we are called to be holy and pure, to be able to be in His presence. And there are so many people out there right now that they're not in that spot. And they think that because Jesus is their friend, and, they're cool like that with Him, that, He's just going to accept whatever because they prayed a prayer one time and lived their life the way they wanted to live and thought that God would just forgive them for everything. And though He will forgive you, but you have to repent, and part of repenting means turning from that sin and getting as far away from that sin as possible. Yeah, we stumble and we fall sometimes, but the point is that if your heart is a heart for God, a true heart for God, then sin is going to be detestable to you. And if you do fall and stumble, you're going to want to repent immediately and be on your face in tears, crying out for forgiveness and help and strength to move forward in the right direction and be pleasing to God. Basically, if you're not crying, you're probably not all that sorry. Because if you're more concerned about pleasing God and not hurting Him, because you do hurt Him when you sin, you make His sacrifice null and void. It's like slapping Him in the face. And how can you do that when He loved you so much to give His own life for you? To slap Him in the face because of some simple, quick satisfaction of your flesh. You need to get on your knees and beg for Him to forgive you and make you right before Him before He comes, so it won't be too late. That I'm going to have to close it off here because my time's running up. Just pray. Pray very hard that you will be counted worthy to escape the things which are about to come upon the earth, and that you'll be worthy to stand in His presence blameless because of His sacrifice for you that you did not take in vain. Peace be with you.